He held the bucket like it belonged in a ceremony. His hands didn't shake. His eyes didn't blink. And when he walked toward me in front of my daughter, her mother's photo, and a room full of witnesses, I knew something was coming. But I never expected this. He raised it, tilted, and poured the contents straight down my chest. It smelled like rotted meat and sewage and motor oil all at once. My tux soaked through in seconds. The gasps were instant. So was the silence that followed. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Conrad. I'm 56 years old, and this is what really happened. The smell stuck in my nose for days. It wasn't just the stench. It was the shame baked into it. The humiliation wasn't quiet. It was wet, warm, loud, the kind you could feel trickling down your spine long after it dried. The guests stood frozen. Some turned their heads. Others reached for their phones. Megan covered her mouth like she might throw up. I didn't move, not at first. I looked straight at Damien, my daughter's new husband. The man I had quietly, carefully, patiently tolerated for the last 2 years. He didn't look away. He smirked. Damien, now we're even. He turned and walked back to the table like he'd just delivered a toast. I didn't understand. Even for what? Frank Laffin stood up from the front row, nervously adjusting his cufflinks. Of course he did. The man never missed a chance to clean his image, even when his son was bathing his new father-in-law in waste. Frank? Conrad, let's not make a scene. He didn't whisper it. He said it loud enough for the crowd to hear. I wiped the filth from my eyes with the back of my sleeve. The fabric squished. Megan came toward me, her veil still clipped to her hair, face pale. Megan, Dad, what the hell was that? She touched my arm. I flinched. I kept my voice low. Me? You married into a family that plays by a different rulebook. She stared at me. Me? And the first chapter just landed in your lap. I turned, walked toward the back exit of the barn, and pushed open the side door. The warm air outside didn't help. It only made the smell worse. I passed the catering staff, the camera crew, few shocked guests in pastel suits. Behind the tent, there was a hose. Cold, fast. I let the water run over my chest, scrubbing hard, blinking through the sting. It wasn't just physical. It was personal. It was public. It was calculated. And Damien had waited until the exact moment I stood to give my father the bride's speech to do it. A woman peeked her head around the corner. Helen. My assistant of 15 years. She looked horrified. Helen. Conrad, are you okay? I didn't answer right away. I just leaned forward, dripping, shivering slightly, then stood up straighter. Me. It's time. She didn't need clarification. Helen, you want me to activate the folder? I nodded. Me. Everything. She pulled out her phone. Helen. Understood. While the wedding guests sipped champagne and recovered from the chaos, my plan, the one I'd kept in my back pocket for nearly a year, began to move. Because I hadn't trusted Damien since the day I met him. He was too charming, too smooth, the kind of man who smiled at you with his teeth and made deals with his silence. I kept notes. I recorded calls. I even hired a man in Phoenix who owed me a favor. By the time Megan accepted Damien's proposal, I already knew about the shell accounts, the fake vendors, the re-registered titles, the dealership laundering schemes under Frank Lockton's network. What I didn't know was why Damien hated me enough to stage something so vile, until 5 minutes after the waste hit me. That's when Helen walked back behind the tent, face pale, hand trembling slightly. Helen. The email blast went out. I raised an eyebrow. Helen. All local outlets. IRS contacts. The wedding guests. I let that settle. Then she added something else. Helen. But Conrad. Something's wrong. Me? What? She turned the phone toward me. There was a new file in the drive, one I hadn't uploaded. Its title was just one word. Megan. I stared at the word on the screen. Megan. Just her name. No timestamp. No context. I took the phone from Helen slowly, carefully. My thumb hovered over the file for a second too long before I tapped it open. A video. 54 seconds long. The opening frame was grainy, but the audio was clear. Damien's voice. Damien. She doesn't know a thing. Her dad's too careful. I'll keep her name clean until after the transfer. Then doesn't matter. A pause. Damien again. Laughing this time. Damien. Marrying her was the easiest part. Then another voice. Frank. Frank. Just make sure the father stays quiet. That man's been a threat since day one. My grip tightened around the phone. They weren't just using Megan. They were planning to discard her. Coldly. Quietly. Like trash. I handed the phone back to Helen and steadied my breath. Me. Change of plan. Helen, what do you mean? Me, don't just release the documents. Push the video. Helen blinked. Helen. To who? Me. Everyone. I stepped back into the barn, still soaked and still stinking. But I didn't care. Because now the betrayal wasn't just mine. It was Megan's too. And the world deserved to see it. The DJ had returned to the booth, trying to ease the tension with some light jazz. The crowd was scattered across the floor, whispering in small circles, pretending to recover. But when I picked up the mic again, the room froze. I didn't clear my throat. I didn't crack a joke. I just lifted Helen's phone, tapped the screen and held it up to the microphone. Damien's voice echoed across the room again. She doesn't know a thing. Her dad's too careful. I turned the screen toward the crowd so they could see the faces. Every word stabbed deeper. By the time the video ended, Megan was sitting in a chair near the front table, hands in her lap, eyes wide and wet. The groom was nowhere in sight. Until a slam echoed from the back of the barn. Damien. His suit jacket was gone, tie loose, face flushed. He charged toward me. Damien, you sick old man. You think this is gonna stop me? I didn't move. You already stopped yourself. He shoved me hard in the chest. I stumbled back into a folding chair. Before I could rise, someone tackled him from the side. Not security. It was Megan. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She climbed on top of him, pounding his chest with both fists. Megan, you lied to me. You used me. It took 3 people to pull her off. The crowd had stopped whispering. Now they were filming. Damien sat on the floor, shirt wrinkled, pride shattered, while his bride, my daughter, looked down at him like a stranger. She whispered, I signed the joint accounts, didn't I? He didn't answer. She didn't blink as she said, Tell me the truth. He wiped his mouth. Damien, you'll be fine. Your name's clean. They won't trace it. Megan stepped back like she'd been slapped. She turned to me. Megan. Dad, am I in trouble? I didn't lie. Me. If you stay with him. Yes. That's when I saw her shoulders drop. Not in defeat. In clarity. She reached behind her neck, unclipped the pendant he'd given her during the vows and let it fall to the floor. The sound of metal hitting wood echoed louder than any of the applause that followed. Megan. Then I'm done. She didn't look at Damien again. She walked past him, past the guests, past me. She didn't stop until she reached the parking lot. I watched her the entire way. Helen came up beside me again. Helen. We should tell her everything. I nodded. May. Not everything. Not yet. Helen. You don't think she can handle it? Me. It's not that. I looked at the phone again. The video wasn't sent from my folder. It had been added remotely. That meant someone else had access. Someone close to Damien. And someone who knew Megan needed to see it. I had a new problem now. This wasn't just revenge. This was exposure. Controlled by someone I didn't recognize. Someone who had waited until the perfect moment to drop that file. I stood there, holding the phone like it was something radioactive. Someone had helped me without asking. Someone inside. And that meant either my plan had been intercepted, or my enemy had enemies of his own. The barn emptied out in slow waves. Guests shuffled toward the exits in silence. Some offering me nods, some pretending not to look. Frank Lawton was gone. Disappeared the moment the video hit the speakers. Typical. Megan was sitting alone on the venue's front steps. Still in her dress, still clutching the bouquet, even though the petals were starting to brown at the edges. I walked toward her. Each step felt heavier than the last. She didn't look at me until I sat down beside her. Megan. You knew all this time. I didn't answer right away. She didn't blink as she said, You were waiting for him to hurt me. Me, I was waiting for you to see it. She laughed. Short, dry. Megan, you recorded them? Me. No, not that last one. That video didn't come from me. She turned her head. Megan. Then who? I didn't have an answer, and that scared me more than anything Damien had done. Because whoever had that access to my private drive, to Damien's private moments, had reach. And reach always came with an agenda. My phone buzzed. A single message. Now you owe me. No name. No number. I didn't show it to Megan. Instead, I stood. Me. I need to make a call. She nodded, not asking who, because even now she understood the weight of silence better than most. I walked to the back parking lot, opened the trunk of my rental and pulled out a plain black case. Inside, documents. Originals. Not digital. Not traceable. All the leverage I'd ever gathered on the Lochin family. I never intended to use them. Until Damien poured waste over my shoulders. Now every sealed folder had a reason to be opened. I opened the one labeled Kestrel. Kestrel was the name of a dummy logistics company Frank had owned in the 90s. Shut down for structural bankruptcy. But its license had quietly been renewed 10 months ago under Damien's name. The registered address? A 2-story house in Edgeport. But the IP used to upload that video came from Edgeport too. I made the connection in seconds. Someone near the company had access to Damien's files, and they wanted him exposed, not just punished. I called an old friend. Claire, been a while, Colin. I need a name. Whoever leaked a file into my drive during the Lapton takedown, I need their name and location. Send the metadata. Claire, give me an hour. I hung up and stared out over the field behind the barn. The grass was wet. The wind was calm. And for the first time in months I didn't feel powerless. Until a woman stepped out from behind the catering van. I recognized her immediately. Tall, red lipstick, gray coat, hands tucked into the pockets. Her name was Adrienne Fox, former Lowton accountant. Quietly fired 2 years ago. She walked slowly. Adrienne, you didn't think I'd miss the wedding, did you? I narrowed my eyes. Me. It was you, she shrugged. Adrienne, you're not the only one who hated Frank. I didn't trust her. Me. Why now? Adrienne. Because Damien crossed a line. You were just leverage. But Megan, she didn't deserve what they had planned. I stepped closer. Me? So what do you want? She smiled. Adrienne, I want to finish what you started. But this time, we take everything. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small red flash drive. Adrienne, this is internal audits, vendor trails, client kickbacks, offshore statements. Me. What's the catch? She leaned in. Adrienne, you give me full immunity when it all burns. I didn't answer. I took the drive, stared at it, then looked back at the barn. Megan was still sitting alone. My daughter. Used. Lied to. Betrayed in front of everyone. And still standing. Adrienne turned to leave. But before she rounded the van, she paused. Adrienne, by the way, Megan was never supposed to sign those accounts. I froze. Nee, what do you mean? Adrienne, she wasn't on the list. Damien forged her digital consent. She's clean. For now. Then she was gone. I clenched the drive in my fist. Because now I had 2 problems. One I could destroy, and one I had to protect. That night I didn't sleep. Not because I couldn't. Because I wouldn't. There are moments a man waits his entire life for. Sometimes it's justice. Sometimes it's clarity. And sometimes it's the moment you realize you're not the only one who's been setting traps. Adrienne's flash drive sat on the counter of my motel kitchenette. Unlabeled. Cold. I stared at it for an hour before I plugged it in. The folder names read like a confession. Vendor shells. Offshore routing. Property reallocations. Political transfers. Q3 digital forgery. Signature layer logs. That last one made my stomach drop. I opened it. The file contained a screen recording. Damien logging into a bank portal. Accessing the shared business account. Then dragging a signature image into a consent form. Megan's name. Her signature. Her future. Hanging on a PNG file. The video ended with a soft keyboard click. Damien whispering. She'll never know. It was timestamped 7 days before the wedding. I sat back in the creaking motel chair and closed my eyes. Me. He never planned to keep her. My phone buzzed. It was Clay. Claire, I got your source. Me. Adrienne Fox. I already know. Claire. No. Not her. My body stiffened. Claire. She dropped the file. Sure, but she didn't film the original. That file came from a private home security network. Me. Whose? Claire. Your daughter's. I blinked. Me. You're saying Megan recorded it? Claire. Not knowingly. Her home hub synced to a cloud backup the night before the wedding. Audio capture got flagged under a privacy breach audit. That's how the file popped. My blood ran cold. Me. She doesn't know her house caught that conversation. Claire. Nope. But someone who had back-end access to her smart home login did. I clenched the phone. That meant one thing. Someone had been watching Damien. Through Megan's home. And it wasn't me. And it wasn't Adrienne. Me? Who has her login? Claire? You're not gonna like it. I stood. Me. Say it. Claire Frank. He set up their home as a wedding gift. His tech company handled the install. I closed my eyes. That arrogant bastard. He rigged their home from the start, not to protect her but to control her. And somehow his own system captured his son's downfall. I paced the room. Because if Frank had that footage and didn't act on it, that meant he knew what Damien planned to do, and let it happen anyway. I needed confirmation. I opened my burner laptop and loaded the backup logs Adrienne gave me. Every folder had a login trail. And 2 weeks before the wedding, someone under the user alias Cobalt downloaded the Megan footage. I traced the alias. It pinged back to Frank's personal server. That was enough. Enough to burn his name. Enough to tear down his fortune. Enough to make him answer publicly for what he allowed. But just as I began composing the email to my attorney, another message came in. No name. Just a short video clip. The screen lit up with a dimly lit hallway. Surveillance footage. Megan. Walking. Following behind her was a man in a black jacket. He looked like Damien. But it wasn't Damien. He was taller. Older. His hand reached out, grabbed her shoulder, pulled her into the shadows. The video ended. Attached was a note. She's not safe anymore. I bolted upright. Dialed Megan's number. It rang twice. Then voicemail. I called again. Nothing. I called Helen. Where's Megan? Helen. She said she was heading to your place. She left an hour ago. I grabbed my keys. Because if that video was real, and if someone was following her, then all of this just changed. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about protection. And whoever sent that warning was already ahead of me. The drive to my house was a blur. 23 minutes. That's how long it took me to get from the motel to my street. I ran 2 red lights. Didn't care. I pulled up fast, engine growling. The porch light was off. That wasn't normal. Megan always turned it on at dusk. I stepped out and scanned the yard. No movement. I unlocked the door and stepped inside slowly. Quiet. Too quiet. Kitchen chairs untouched. No shoes at the mat. The coat rack still empty. Megan? No answer. I walked down the hallway, my steps slow and deliberate. That's when I saw it. A note on the table. Handwritten. No envelope. It read, I'm okay. I had to disappear. It's not just Damien. It's bigger than both of us. I'll contact you soon. Please don't look for me. I froze. It was her handwriting. I recognized the way she looped the G. But the message? That wasn't her. I knew my daughter. She'd never run. Unless someone gave her a reason to. I turned the note over. On the back, written in tiny block letters, he bugged your motel. My chest tightened. I grabbed my phone and called Claire. Hey, check the motel. Now pull the camera feeds from my room in the hallway. Claire. You think someone got her? Meow. I think she found something first. Click. I looked around the room again. Nothing broken. Nothing forced. Just empty. Then I saw it. On the floor beneath the couch. Her necklace. The same one she wore at the wedding. It was snapped. I crouched down and picked it up carefully. The clasp wasn't broken. It had been cut. Clean. Deliberate. Whoever did this wanted to make it look like she left willingly. But left enough clues to say she didn't. And the only people smart enough to stage that were the ones who used to control her. Frank. Or someone working under him. I stood and dialed Adrienne. Me. You said you wanted to take everything. Adrienne. I still do. Me. Then we bring the fire. She didn't speak for a few seconds. Adrienne. What happened? Me. She's gone. And someone made it look like she left. I need every thread you have on Frank's back channels. Anything unlisted. Anything that smells like private security or offshore recovery teams. Adrienne. On it. Me. And Adrienne? Adrienne. Yeah. Me. If you're lying to me, I'll find you too. Click. I wasn't bluffing. 2 days later, the first wave hit. I leaked the entire Kestrel document cache to the press. Local, national, even international. Every dollar Frank moved, every bribe he signed, every ghost payroll account traced back to one of his companies. The financial collapse was fast. Lavin Automotive filed for emergency freeze within 48 hours. A dozen vendors went public. Former employees came forward. One even admitted to doctoring Megan's signature on Damien's orders. Adrian's flash drive did more damage in a weekend than I had done in a year. And then came the subpoenas. Frank was cornered. But the man didn't go down quiet. He released a press statement calling the entire scandal an orchestrated revenge campaign from a disgruntled former associate. Didn't mention his son. Didn't mention Megan. He was trying to outlast the storm. Until someone mailed a package to every board member of Leighton Holdings. Inside, a printed screenshot. Damien, tied to a chair, eyes swollen, captioned with one sentence. You picked the wrong daughter. It wasn't signed, but I didn't need it to be. That same night I received one final message. An image. Megan, wearing a backpack, boarding a small plane, her eyes clear, her posture strong, and written across the bottom, in her handwriting. I'm safe. I forgive you. Don't stop. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, no new clues. No more messages. Just silence. But sometimes, silence is enough. Because when the people you love are finally out of the storm, you don't need to hear them. You just need to know they're breathing on their own. And as for Damien and Frank, they taught me something I'll never forget. Revenge isn't about punishment. It's about exposure. And once the truth is out, no one walks away clean. If this story struck a chord, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what you think in the comments.